Hi everyone, namaku Karen. Welcome back to my channel. So, this is how my mind has been lately. Man, I've been wanting to follow my dreams and pursue this specific career path, but it seems like I'm not smart or experienced enough. I really want to live on my own in a studio in my dream city, but it's probably not in the cards for me. You know, I probably couldn't even afford it. I really want to be more self-confident and just do what I want without caring about what other people think. But my personality haven't always revolved around what other people say, so it's probably hard to change that at this point. I've always tried my best to think positively whenever bad things happen in my life, but I've always struggled with knowing how to think positively about things that haven't happened yet, because I'm always doubting whether or not dreams really can turn into reality. But my mindset has changed after reading this book called You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. And the premise of it is that your dream reality already exists. Like literally whatever you want, it already exists out here in the world. If you want to be rich, the money is already there. And then if you want a dream job, that job already exists. And so essentially all we have to do is go get it. It's a really beautiful book and I highly recommend you guys go read it yourself. But I'm gonna be showing you guys today in this video about some of the main points that I really loved, how I'm applying it to my life, and how you guys can apply it to your life too. So when we were all born, we were essentially this blank canvas. We just existed. And then our conscious mind is driven by this area of the brain called the frontal lobe. And because we're babies, our frontal lobe hasn't fully developed yet. So all of the information that's fed to us when we were kids, they all go into our subconscious. And this is all of the information, like when your parents teach you something, when other people around you teach you things, they all go into this subconscious. And essentially, these will eventually become what we call our beliefs. And then as we grow up and we develop our conscious mind, all of that information in our subconscious doesn't just magically go away. Eventually, they start to influence our conscious thoughts. Hence, we are all living in an illusion based on other people's beliefs. I've always been the type of person who really needs approval from other people. I don't really regret it though, because I feel like that's what made me a good kid, and that's not a bad thing, you guys. But it was to the point where I wasn't myself and I was living by other people's standards. When I was in elementary school, I hung out with cliquey girls all the time, and I was never really like the leader. I was always following other girls, and if they were mad at me, you know, as dramatic as elementary school kids can get, I would immediately assume fault and I would just apologize to them, no questions asked. And then of course we have my parents. I feel like I'm still having so much trouble now at 21 years old doing things that my parents don't approve of, because, you know, I'm pretty close with my family and I just don't want to do anything that makes them upset. You know, I always want to make them happy and I always want to make them proud. So why I'm sharing all of this is because I am basically the epitome of someone who is living by other people's standards. I put myself in a box, you know, I limit myself a lot because I'm always seeking validation from other people. When I was a kid, I had crazy dreams. Even now I still do, but when I was a little kid, I wanted to do so many things and I wanted to be all of these things that Asian parents don't really approve of. If you guys watched my growing up Indonesian American video, you guys would know that as a kid I wanted to grow up and be a singer and an actress. And then I also wanted to be an author at one point, and then there was a phase when I wanted to be a graphic designer. Honestly, these are all very noble jobs. I'm a huge fan of art, so even now I would still pursue those jobs if I could, but they're not as stable as a typical corporate 9-to-5 job. So because of that, I just didn't pursue it, because growing up it's just always been a fact to me that you should always stay safe, you should always stay low, you should always do what other people are doing and just be normal. Like, don't deviate from the normal path that other people are doing. And it definitely makes sense because Jen also says this in her book, but we essentially live in a fear-based society. We often see bad news on TV, we see violence in video games and in books and in movies, and we also hear a lot of stories, you know, a lot of people being unsuccessful, going bankrupt, going homeless, you know, and because of that, obviously our senses go crazy. They're just like, okay, avoid that, you don't want to be like that. Because of that, that essentially we are all conditioned to play it safe. There's this effect that Jen says in her book called the crab effect, where if you put crabs in a bowl and one of them tries to climb out, the rest try to pull them back in, which is definitely what ends up happening, I feel like. Because I hear a lot of stories about people who go the unconventional route, and a lot of the times those stories were met with disapproval from the people who were speaking about them. And so I get really scared of my biggest dreams, one of which is to put myself out there and make videos like this, and so I don't do it. But as Jen also says in her book, if you want to live a life you've never lived, you have to do things you've never done. Of course, one of the worries that I struggle with, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people struggle with it too, is that when we try something that we haven't done before, we're always scared of failing. We're scared that if we take the leap, we'll end up crashing to the waves instead of flying, you know, like a bird. For me personally, I always grew up thinking in statistics. For example, when I was a kid and I wanted to be a movie star, I wanted to be an actress, whatever, my family would just be like, Karen, there is 1 in a million chance of you being that person. And so I think about it like, okay, out of a million people and there's only one spot for that person to become successful, then that one spot obviously couldn't be me. Like, who am I? So it's very, very unlikely that I will achieve that, and so don't do it, you know, just do something safe. But as Jen says in her book, we live in an abundant universe, and this concept is so like mind-blowing to me. We don't live in a universe that only likes and favors certain people more than it favors you. There's no one spot for any one person. Just because one person is doing something and killing it at what you want to do, it doesn't mean that you can't kill it as well, you know, because we live in an abundant universe. I kind of always struggled with this, especially when it comes to my passion projects, because I'm the type of person who likes to see the evidence first before believing it. I don't like wasting my time, you know. As a person, I always want to make sure that what I'm doing is worth it and that what I'm doing will definitely put me at the spot that I want to be in the future. But your job isn't to know the how, it's to know the what and to be open to discovering and receiving the how. What I've been trying to do more is sort of accepting that it's always gonna be a bumpy road. Like, your goals are there and it's not always gonna be a smooth, you know, highway, no traffic, no accidents. Everything you do along your journey contributes to where you're going. As long as you don't give up, you know, everything that you do will take you there. And honestly, believing that you can is already half the battle, right? Because our thoughts will become our words become our beliefs become our actions become our habits, and our habits become our realities. So if you believe it, it'll happen. So, okay, you go out there, people hear about it, and then what? You get judged, people pull you down, they laugh at you. What a fool, they say behind your back. Like I said in the beginning, I'm probably the most sensitive person on the planet regarding this, because growing up, I've always lived by what other people think about me. But as the old saying goes, those who mind don't matter and those who matter don't mind. It's honestly really true, because if people don't support you for something that you're really psyched about, then, you know, those are the people that you don't want in your life anyway. I feel like there's a really key difference that we have to discern between flat-out criticism and constructive criticism. And so a way to evaluate that is to ask yourself, is it true? Can I use this info to better myself and the lives of others? If you answered no to those two questions, then, you know, stop it. Like, don't even think about it. It's not even worth it. And the second way that I think about it is remembering this fact. Watching someone else totally go for it can be incredibly upsetting to the person who spent a lifetime building a solid case for why they themselves can't. People are going to hurt you in a lot of different ways. Some of them could be disguised in less harmful ways. For example, you know, your parents could be so concerned about your future that they disapprove of what you're doing, or it could be wrapped up in more harmful ways. For example, your friends could be talking about you behind your back, or they tell you that you've changed, and also they might block you on social media. I think it's important to remember that you're only in control of what you say and do. You're not in control of the way people are going to react. So if you constantly mold yourself around things that you don't have control over, that's gonna get really tiring in the end, and it's just gonna make you unhappy. And the third way that I think about it is what other people think about you has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. And this circles back to my first point that I made in the beginning of this video about how our subconscious affects our conscious mind. Because of this, every single person in this planet has a unique perception because each of them are fed different unique beliefs and each of them therefore perceive the world in different ways. What people do to you is honestly just a projection of their own beliefs. It has nothing to do with how capable, how awesome, how talented you are, because only you can determine that for yourself. In the end, growth is painful. You know, taking the leap, doing something that other people wouldn't even dare to do, that's gonna be very, very painful. But it's not nearly as painful as not living the life that you want to live. So if you're looking for a sign whether or not you should just do that one thing that you've been thinking about doing for so long, this is it. Okay? Go out there and do it. Think about it. You only have one life, so might as well just make it the life that you want to live. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!